If you need plenty of space, combined with effortless grace, then you'll be wanting a luxury estate car.
But which should you choose between the Mercedes E-Class Estate, the BMW 5 Series Touring, or the Volvo V90? Now I know what you badge snobs are thinking. Can a Volvo really compete with a Mercedes or a BMW? Well, you're about to find out.
To do that, I'm going to critique their designs,
There's just something a little bit in your face about it.
inspect their cabins,
And the seats in this V90 are blooming lovely.
see how practical they are,
Should you want to carry a basket full of kittens?
and test what they're like to drive.
Why am I talking to the car like it's a person?
But first, let's talk numbers.
The Volvo starts from £36,000, though this one with options is £56,000. The BMW 5 Series Touring, that starts from £38,000, though this one is £65,000 because it's got the 3-litre diesel engine and shed loads of gadgets on it. This Mercedes, it starts from £37,000. This particular car I have here with options is £51,000, which means it's actually the cheapest car of the three. Now what matters is the price you pay at a dealer. So if you click up there, you can go to carwow.co.uk, you can build your ideal car online, you'll then get 5 great offers back from top dealers within 24 hours, and then you can compare prices without having to haggle, all from the comfort of your own home.
Now, they may be estate cars, but that doesn't mean that they have to look frumpy and boring. Take the Mercedes, for example.
I really like the look of this Mercedes E-Class Estate. It's just elegant, it's pretty. You know, it doesn't look bulbous even. There is one thing that really does my head in about it though. I don't know why Mercedes insists on doing this. Look, those exhaust pipes, they're fake. Look, they're actually blocked off. Look.
Unlike the Mercedes with its fake vents, there's some on the BMW which are actually really clever.
This car has a clever system in its grille whereby when the engine needs cooling, the grille is open, but when it doesn't need cooling anymore, the actual grille slats will shut, just like that, for improved aerodynamics to reduce fuel consumption. And that means, you know, this is kind of touchy-feely. Well, you think it is, but when you actually take a look at it, I mean, this is a bit of a brute, this car. I mean, look at the size of it for starters. And in this M Sport trim, it's all sporty. And even this one is running on 20-inch alloy wheels. There's just something a little bit in your face about it.
Don't worry, SE versions of the BMW look tamer, but if it's understated class you're after, the V90 does it better.
If 5 years ago I told you that a Volvo would look better than the equivalent Mercedes or BMW, you'd have thought that I'd gone and lost my mind, maybe forgotten to take my medication. But here we are, 2017, and the V90 is the best looking estate car. It's a fact. And if you're trying to argue that in the comments box below, I'll just delete your comment. I can do that.
The Volvo's beauty isn't only skin deep either, it's nice on the inside too.
The Swedish are famous for their minimalist interior designs, and this extends to this Volvo's cabin. It's all very simple, nice and easy to use, and quality is strong, though probably not quite as good as that in the BMW, but it's really about that much in it. Swedish are also famous for their furniture, and the seats in this V90 are blooming lovely. I think they're the nicest seats out of the three cars. When it comes to the infotainment system though, they're not quite up there with the Germans. It's not far off. I do like the system. It's a touchscreen only, so it is a bit more difficult to use while you're driving. And yeah, the menus are okay to swipe through, but it's not the best here.
So, how does the Mercedes measure up?
I really, really love the inside of this car. I think the design is it's just a cut above, really. It blends kind of oldie-worldy Mercedes flowing lines with some high-tech gadgetry, and it looks smart as well. The only thing is, a few bits and pieces just feel really, really cheap, like this plastic here and this button here to open this cubby. I mean, you have to touch that, and it's horrible. And then there's the infotainment system. So if you go for a 4-cylinder engine car, you actually get a smaller screen than this. You need a 6-cylinder car or pay to upgrade to this command online. Then it does look really good. And then if you want digital dials, you have to pay extra again. And once again, they do look really good. It's great, but it's not all that awesome to use.
The main problem is the control layout. The click wheel is obscured by a trackpad device with a touch-sensitive section on top. And the menus are all a bit confusing too. Essentially, the Mercedes interior isn't quite as good as it looks. However, the BMW is the other way round.
Inside this BMW 5 Series, the design, it's a little bit meh. I can't fault the quality though. It's absolutely blooming lovely. Everything that you touch just feels posh and luxurious. You will struggle to find a cheap bit of plastic in here. And then there's the infotainment system. So yeah, the screen looks glorious, and you can control it using the swivel wheel, which is easy when you're driving. There's voice commands. You can also use it as a touchscreen if you want to, which some people might like to do. There we go, look at that. And you also have gesture controls, and I'll illustrate that now. So I can turn up the volume by doing that. However, we only have 5 seconds. Copyright fee, so mute it using that gesture. If I'm brutally honest, it's a bit of a gimmick. It's much easier to just go, to be fair.
Overall though, it's the best infotainment system here. It looks fantastic, the menus are logical, loading times are quick, and there's so many different input methods that you're bound to find at least one that suits you. So, the BMW is brilliant up front, but what's it like for carrying passengers?
If I had to do a lot of distance in the back of one of these cars, I would choose this BMW. Reason is, not only have you got loads of space, this seat is quite high, so the angle between your knees and your hips isn't too great. Also, the seat base itself is really deep, so you get lots of underleg support. It's absolutely brilliant for doing distancing. What it's not so good at though is carrying 3 in the back at once.
That's because the middle seat is raised and it's firm. Also, footroom is just a little bit tight for 3 people. Fitting a child seat is easy enough though, thanks to the wide doors and flip-up Isofix anchor point covers. Getting a child seat into the Merc is even easier, though there is a risk you may lose its removable Isofix anchor point covers. But what's it like for grown-ups in the back of the Mercedes?
There's absolutely loads of space here in the back of the Mercedes E-Class estate. Even though we've got the panoramic sunroof, I say panoramic, this big bar means that it doesn't feel that panoramic. There's still loads of headroom. Knee room's really good as well, though the seat does seem quite low, so your knees are quite a bit higher than your hips, and that can feel a little bit awkward actually. What isn't awkward is when you carry 3 in the back. This middle seat is nice and wide, it's very comfy, and the body of the car is quite wide as well, so it's actually really good for carrying 3 in the back at once.
Yes, if you ever want to carry 3 people in the back for any kind of distance, the Mercedes is definitely the one to pick. And this brings us on to the V90.
There's plenty of room here in the back of the V90, and it's especially nice if you go for this huge panoramic sunroof. It's absolutely massive, lets loads of light in back here, helps make it feel more airy, and even with that fitted, there's still enough headroom for taller adults. Where this car falls down ever so slightly in the back is that the body is relatively narrow for this size of car, so it can feel a bit of a squeeze with 3 up.
Despite the fact all 3 seats in the back are comfy, there's just not quite enough shoulder room for 3 adults back there. But what's the Volvo like for carrying stuff instead of people?
The V90 is a practical car, but it's not the most practical estate car, and I'll show you a couple of reasons why. One is the fact that this parcel shelf, you have the bit for the load cover, but as standard you don't get a net which you can pull up and down out of here to secure items fully in the back. And then there's the fact that, look at this, the ski hatch is really only good for skis. You couldn't fit anything larger through there. Plus, the seats, they only fold down 1, come on, and 2 ways. That means that you couldn't carry a large plank of wood and 2 people in the back, which might be important if you want to carry a large plank of wood.
If your DIY ambitions go further than just 1 plank, the Volvo's load space is big with the back seats up and very big with them down. Thing is, the BMW's is ever so slightly larger in both configurations, so you can cram just a bit more than you can in the Volvo with the seats up or them down. Also, the BMW is just that little bit cleverer too.
The 5 Series Touring has plenty of useful features. For instance, you can fold down this middle seat separately to the other 2 to carry long items and 2 passengers. You release the seats automatically like that with these little electric switches. Under here, there's a place for the load covers. Look, so this is the one with the net, and then you have the one for the load cover itself. So when they're not in use, you can take them with you, so you're not going to end up leaving them at home. Another feature I like is this. No, it's not the fact that you get an electrical tailgate as standard, you get that on the other 2 cars. It's this, look, you can open the glass part separately. That's really handy if you just want to open it up and chuck something in when it's raining, then hurry up and get in the car.
Really though, when it comes to outright load lugging, there is one clear winner, and it's the Mercedes E-Class. You'll be able to carry more in this thing than the other 2. And it can carry the most weight as well, but that's not all.
The boot of this E-Class estate is packed full of useful features. For instance, the load cover not only has the cover itself, but integrated into it is this net here, which helps keep items in the boot separate from the rest of the passenger area. It would be handy if you could store this under the false floor, but you can't. Having said that, the space you do have under there is pretty deep and useful, and you get that Mercedes origami basket, should you want to carry a basket full of kittens. This car's got a little mat in it to keep it all neat and tidy. Also, I can fold down the middle seat on its own to carry really long items and 2 people either side. The seats themselves, they're electrically operated, so they're very easy to operate. And then there's this feature as well. I've got to show you this. If you really need to carry some more stuff, you have this separate bracket here, which puts the seat backs a bit more upright to improve your boot space. I feel like I'm Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
Now then, it's time to hit the road and see how these cars compare from behind the wheel.
The E-Class Estate sets the standard in terms of comfort and quietness. Yeah, it's a really relaxing car. You get air suspension on the back as standard. This one has all-round air suspension and it's just super floaty. You don't really feel bumps at all. It's lovely. Then there's the handling. Now, for this estate version, Mercedes has actually added extra bracing to the car, so it feels sharper to drive than the saloon, which is weird, but I'll take that. Thank you very much, Mercedes. And yeah, generally, it's lovely. Now, the engine in this car is a 2-litre diesel, and it's all you need. It's pretty quiet, it's pretty smooth, and it's very punchy, especially for a 4-cylinder diesel. In terms of economy, I'm getting 43 miles per gallon. I'm quite impressed by this car.
The Mercedes is also packed for the latest driver assistance systems, but it doesn't lead the field in this respect. It's very closely matched by the others.
Now, all 3 of these cars are available with semi-autonomous driving, which means they can pretty much drive themselves when you're in the car. You do have to occasionally use the steering wheel to let them know you're there. However, with the BMW, it can actually drive itself without you in it, because it has a remote control function where you can move it in and out of parking spaces using the key as a controller. Look at that. There is no one in the car. It's just utterly mad. And then you can stop it and get in. And then it's just a case of driving off. It really is very clever.
But what's the car like when you aren't driving it by remote control?
The 5 Series Touring gets air suspension as standard on the back. This particular car has the upgraded adaptive setup, and yeah, in terms of comfort, it's right there with the Mercedes pretty much. And in terms of noise insulation as well, when it comes to handling, you'd think that this thing would be the best, but bizarrely it's not actually. The Mercedes just feels sharper. There's something weird about this car's steering, and if you go too fast into a corner, it starts to push wide. In fact, this Touring just doesn't feel as sporty to drive as a 5 Series Saloon. Part of the reason for that could be the fact that it weighs more. Also, this particular car has the all-wheel drive system, which adds weight as well, and it's got the larger 3-litre 6-cylinder engine. Having said that though, this engine is blooming lovely. It's super quick. Economy-wise, it's doing 39 miles per gallon, which I can't fault really because it's just so lovely and smooth and fast. However, most people will buy the 2-litre diesel version of this car, and the 2-litre diesel in this just isn't quite as good as the 2-litre diesel you can get in the Mercedes. The big question is, can a Volvo drive as well as a big German estate car? And the answer is, do you know what? Yeah, it can. It's actually really hard to tell a difference between the 3 cars. They're so closely matched. And this Volvo does a really good job actually. So it's comfy, it's quiet, it handles well enough, maybe not as sharp as the Mercedes or quite the BMW, but who cares? Who cares really? It does a good job. Now, unlike the other 2 cars, which are rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, this is front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, but most people aren't going to notice the difference. In terms of the engines, it's doing 45 miles per gallon. However, unlike with the other 2 cars, you can't get the Volvo with a 6-cylinder engine. It's 4-cylinder only, and they're just not quite as smooth. Can't fault the performance on this one though. This D5, 0 to 60, that takes just 7 seconds. The problem with it though is the automatic gearbox. It's just slower to respond than the autos in the other 2 cars. So you put your foot down, you have to wait, and then finally it decides to take off. That's the only weakness, Volvo. Other than that, you're really impressive. Why am I talking to the car like it's a person? I don't know, something about Volvos, you bond with them.
So then, where does all that leave us?
Really, it's very difficult to separate these three cars. The Volvo V90 and BMW 5 Series Touring are both very good, but the car which combines luxury, comfort and practicality the best is the Mercedes E-Class Estate.